Welcome to the 6th Annual Innovative Women's Conference, hosted virtually for the first time ever. We are so glad you are here. I'm Grace Williamson, President of the Jenkins MBA Women's Club. I'd like to provide some remarks this morning to kick off our day, but first need to address important technical etiquette for you all to be aware of throughout the conference to make this an enjoyable experience for all. First, your microphones and videos are turned off as a default. While we would love to see you, we ask that you would please keep your camera off if you are not a presenter. Remain muted to keep background noise minimized. The full schedule and corresponding Zoom room links can be found on go.ncsu.edu/IWC. Follow this schedule throughout the day. Go to the primary conference room if you find yourself lost at any time. If you have questions during sessions, we encourage you to use the chat feature of Zoom. Representatives of the Women's Club are available to ensure your question is addressed. We are noting important takeaways from each session. We request your participation in sharing interesting thoughts you had during sessions by adding an aha moment, spelled A-H-A. If we can include your name in our virtual notebook that we will share later, please write your name and aha and your thought in the chat box. Finally, you can control how you view the speaker's videos on the screen with active speaker or gallery view. We suggest using active speaker view so you can easily see the presenter. Find that option on the top right of your screen. While we have simulated what this virtual conference will look like and have tried to prepare for all technical difficulties, we realize everything may not go as planned. Please give us grace throughout the day and forgive us as issues occur. We are recording all sessions, so you will be able to go back and review sessions you would have liked to see later. We will have announcements rolling throughout the breaks to help you orient yourself when you are ready to come back to the next sessions. With that shared, for our inaugural virtual Innovative Women's Conference, today we are really going to test what it means to radically collaborate as a community. Just 1 week ago, our original plan to meet in Raleigh at the McKimmon Center was flipped on its head. And here we are in a surreal environment, connecting over 200 women as well as men in a virtual setting. Our own team is practicing collaboration this week, being in various places from Western North Carolina to Raleigh and as far north as Philadelphia and New York City today. Thank you for taking time for yourself today to join us, especially during such a challenging time where uncertainty is taking precedence. Really, this conference could not have come at a better time as we are creating the space for you today to be able to think about how you face adversity, how you collaborate with others, and how you are radical in decisions you make for yourself. We hope today you will challenge yourself to build and expand your foundation of professional and personal development. We believe there is power in connection through building trusted relationships, and we encourage you to make intentional connections with those who are participating in this Zoom room, as well as through our LinkedIn event found on the website. Our chosen theme this year is radical collaboration. Radical collaboration is based on design thinking, and it speaks to co-creation. It is inspired by the desire to learn from, offer, and embrace diverse perspectives within problem solving, idea generation, and solutions finding. And when we do this, we can overcome unconscious biases that tend to keep us stuck in circular reasoning. Today, you will hear from executives, educators, and entrepreneurs who practice radical collaboration in their careers and personal lives. These dynamic women will share their stories and experiences to help us learn and create environments conducive to building allyship, which supports those around us, no matter how different our backgrounds may be. This conference was intentionally scheduled to be held in March this year to honor Women's History Month. A few weeks ago, we recognized the 100th anniversary of the passage of the 19th Amendment, guaranteeing and protecting women's constitutional right to vote. Unfortunately, women of color would still have to fight discrimination well beyond that amendment. African American women would fight for civil rights. Latinas would fight for workers' rights. Native American women would fight for sovereign rights, and Asian American women would fight to emerge from internment. We are standing on the shoulders of giants who made sure we have the right to vote, the rights to equal pay, and the rights to make our own decisions about our own bodies. 100 years later, in 2020, there are more female elected officials in Congress than ever before. And women like NC State alumna and NASA astronaut Christina Koch are leading teams to explore space. It is our responsibility to continue writing the chapters for the next 100 years of the brave women who came before us. To celebrate this, we have partnered with the Poole College of Management's Department of Diversity and Inclusion to highlight female alumni who have forged their path in our communities through the Her Story event. I cannot wait to hear their stories today. It is a vastly different contrast between what happened 100 years ago with the right to vote, giving us a basic right, to then launching a NASA space exploration. The only way we can continue to build this force is by understanding our own core values, being willing to be honest with ourselves and others, to radically collaborate and make change for our own lives, our families, and our communities. I am grateful to be a woman with access to education and to live in a city where innovation is valued. But I recognize women still experience oppression in different ways. We all experience challenges in different ways based on our cultures and lived experiences. This event would not be possible today without my co-leaders, Penny Kaluglu and Lavanya Krishnan. You make my heart full and keep me sane. Our team represents a real example of being radical and bringing it to the table, not only for this virtual event, but by pushing one another, by asking questions, providing feedback on a constant basis. We represent Greece, Singapore, North Carolina, and each of us have our own individual challenges. But from trust and vulnerability, we had faith to try out this virtual landscape. Thank you. I must also recognize the incredible advising team who has coached us throughout the last few months, Dr. Lee Shamblin and Taya Butler. You inspire us every day. A huge shout out to Beth Shepard, who led this effort to help us transform our vision to a virtual experience in just 1 week. Thank you to our Jenkins Career Management Center leaders, Bev Porter and Karen Howley, and to our Associate Dean, Nicole Miller. And of course, we are sending big hugs to the Jenkins NBA Women's Club for all of your support this year. My charge for all of us today is to think about how you can advocate for the life you imagine, but also to be an ally to women around you. Our differences make us stronger together. Throughout the day, we want you to send us pictures or videos of where you're participating, even if that means you're in your pajamas at your house. Use the hashtag JenkinsIWC on your preferred social platform. You can find all of our social handles on the conference schedule. Lastly, we are especially grateful to all of our sponsors during this challenging time for our country and state. Our signature sponsor, Biogen, has several women executives represented today on our panels and are listening in. Secondly, we'd like to thank our breakfast sponsor for the morning, which is RJ Reynolds, who is also represented in panels today. You will see throughout the day all of our sponsors recognized, which include EJ Gallo, First Citizens Bank, IBM, Maria Kingery and Company, NC State's Advancement of Women Entrepreneurs, and NC State's Supply Chain Resource Cooperative. Up next, Dr. Lee Shamblin will help us create intention around our goals for today's conference with the Design Your Life workshop. You will remain in this virtual room for our workshop. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Grace. Hi, everyone. I'm Lee Shamblin. We're going to start this session in a few minutes. What I'd ask you to do is to download the workbook for the Design Your Life session. You can reach it either on the website or Gina, could you put it into the chat? We'll give everyone a couple of minutes to do that. Thank you so much. Okay, Grace, give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen. All right. Give everybody a couple more minutes to get their workbook downloaded and ready. Great messages in the chat. Yes, and it's the Word file on the conference agenda, and it's also in the chat if you'd like to download it. And Penny and Gina have both put it there. I do see some MBAs from our program. For some of you, you may recognize these. Okay, give it just one more minute and we'll start. Okay, I'll go ahead and get started. So as I said, I'm Lee Shamblin. I'm Director of Leadership for the College of Management, the Poole College of Management, and I'm a Professor of Practice in Management, Innovation, and Entrepreneurship. I'll be the leader for this session. Gina Davis is going to be the ambassador and will be monitoring the chat. As Grace said, we're being innovative ourselves, so bear with us. Bear with us, we'll see how this goes. I've already gotten one notification that my internet is unstable this morning, so if needed, I'll turn off my speaking window and make sure that you can see slides. The world feels like it's in chaos right now. Whether you're practicing social distancing, helping your organization shift as a result of everything that's going on, losing your job because of our response to coronavirus or closures, wondering how to finish school this year, or serving on the front line taking care of patients. We're all facing adversity right now, and we're trying to help each other get through it. Practicing gratitude can help us find the good in the face of adversity. I'm thankful for my family and the fact that everyone, including my mother in assisted living, is healthy and safe. I'm thankful that my neighbors are banding together to help each other, that the world is sharing its gifts freely online. I've seen some incredible things, that these amazing women decided to take this conference online and keep it going, and that all of you have joined us. Before we do anything else, would you please turn to page 2 in your workbook and write down 5 things that you are grateful for. Let's check in with ourselves. Feel free to add them to the chat if you'd like. We're monitoring the chat and we'll be saving it and including it in the workbook that we're going to share with everybody. So take a few minutes and write down 5 things that you are thankful for. Technology that connects us. I see that, yes. Yeah. Gina, what are some things that folks are sharing that you'd like to highlight?
Good morning, everyone. Some things people are saying is supportive coworkers, the ability to spend time with their family, healthcare workers that are putting themselves at risk at this time. As you mentioned, technology that we're able to connect with one another, friends, family, and their home.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing. I also noted the hashtag find the good here. There are so many positive things happening in the world, and I'm using this hashtag on social media to highlight those positive things. I invite you to do this with me, and if you have another hashtag or something else that you're using to point out what's really going great, even in the face of all this chaos, please share that in the chat and we'll capture it. Now that we've created some positive intention, some positive energy, let's set our intention for the day. This picture is actually a picture of a fridge magnet I bought 20 years ago. I loved everything that it said, everything that Marianne Rodmacher put down. And that first phrase, live with intention, is so powerful. In very chaotic times, life is swirling around us. It is so easy to get caught up in that swirl and in agendas that other people set for us. But we know that time is a resource that we cannot get refunded. We all have exactly the same amount of it each day. How can you spend yours more purposefully in the midst of this rapidly changing world? One way is by setting intentions and living into them. Today, I want to empower you, the conference participants, with tools that will help you be more purposeful. I also want to learn from all of you. This is a great opportunity for me as well. On page 2 of your workbook, please take a few minutes to set an intention for yourself. What do you want out of this day? You've committed to be here. You've taken your time. You probably got coffee, and as Grace said, you settled in. What do you want from this day, and what do you want from this conference? If you'd like to share an intention, please put it in the chat, preceded by INT, so we'll know exactly what you're responding to. Okay. Gina, any intentions in the chat you'd like to share?
Sure, yes. People are looking for innovative ideas, a way to bring positive energy into their day, to learn from experts in a variety of fields, and to be a better radical collaborator.
Awesome, that all sounds fantastic. Let's get started with design thinking. This session is called Design Your Life, and it's based on the Designing Your Life book by Bill Burnett and Dave Evans. Burnett and Evans are professors at Stanford who have taken their knowledge of design thinking and applied it to the wicked problem that is your life. This is a wonderful book, and I encourage you to read it if you haven't already. A wicked problem is a complex problem in which you have many knowns and many unknowns, right? You don't know exactly how to solve the problem because of this. Coronavirus is a complex, wicked problem. But your life is also a wicked problem. You don't have a clear path into the future. You can't navigate to some point because you don't know how everything's going to go. These past several weeks are really evidence of that. We don't know what's going to happen. But what you can do, what Burnett and Evans have put together as a process, is wayfind. Try things in life and use them to determine whether you feel good about them, whether they fit with you, whether they don't fit with you, and make course corrections as you move along that path in life. In this session, I want to share some tools with you from this book and this process to help you clarify your objectives and find some options for yourself. I want to help you innovate. I want to help you do that whether you've got a lot of chaos right now and you really need to find something because you've maybe lost an opportunity, or because your life just doesn't feel juicy enough. That's what I see most of the time. Here's some statistics that really reinforce the idea that you can't know one right path, or you can't find the exact thing in order to move your life forward. It's not really super clear. Look at this, 27% of college graduates actually work in a job related to their major 10 years out. Most of our college graduates believe that that choice that they make at the end of school, that first job that they take, is actually going to determine a lot of their life. But it doesn't. The statistic bears that out. Another thing that people often talk about is, I want to find my passion, right? I'll find my passion, I'll get on my path and I'll do that. Or I know what I'm passionate about. I was a passion pusher earlier in my life. I tried to encourage people, just find that passion. But the truth is only about 20% know what they're passionate about. If we were face to face, I'd be asking you to raise your hand if you've known what you were passionate about since you were 8 years old. And some of you would raise your hand, and that's fantastic. But most of us would be sitting there going, I don't know, because we don't. So the Design Your Life process reinforces try things. And by trying things, you'll learn more about what you're passionate about. You'll develop passions throughout your life. The last statistic here is that most people want 7.5 lives. The way this number was arrived at is that we asked people, what would you like to do in your life? And that big list of things that they wanted to do averaged out to about 7.5 lives. But assuming that you only get one, we'll do that for the purpose of this presentation. It's really important to live purposefully in that life. Otherwise, that time just goes. So the Design Your Life process can help you do that time and time again at points where your life doesn't feel juicy enough. One of the things that keeps us from being very purposeful about our life and really living into it are limiting beliefs. We know they hold us back. And although I don't have the statistics for this, my experience tells me that women struggle with this especially. So I'd like you to help. What are some things that you know, some limiting beliefs that you've heard women talk about, or maybe you've thought about yourself? Can you put those in the chat? Gina, what are some things that we're seeing?
I'm seeing some really powerful responses, some about insecurities, self-confidence, education levels, family obligations, the need to feel really perfect and to do everything the right way, and wanting to be 100% sure before acting on something.
Those are all really hard to deal with. And if we're giving ourselves those messages that this is what's going to stop us, they will stop us, right? So the opportunity here is, how can we reframe that limiting belief, right? If I believe that someone won't hire me because I lack experience, reframe into, how can I get the experience now so that I'll be more job ready soon? Rather than letting it stop us, how can we create an opportunity from a limiting belief? Make sure to note any limiting beliefs that you have, and maybe a reframe on at least one of them. The Designing Your Life book is based on these 5 ideas. We'll talk about all of them, albeit briefly, because the session's only an hour. Connect the dots, stay away from gravity problems, do 3 plans, prototype everything, and choose well. The first is connect the dots. The idea here is that when you have alignment between who you are at your core, what you believe, your values, the things that you've grown up with, that really resonate with you and are true for you, what you believe, and what you do, whether it's through work or the things that you do with others in the world, when those are aligned, life is more meaningful and fulfilling. I wish we were all together and had a mechanism where we could all raise our hand if you've ever had that job that felt like, ugh, you know, you were Sunday afternoon for me, and I'd get this feeling in my chest, this terrible feeling because I didn't want to go. And for me, that was a job marketing credit cards at a local bank. It was fine, and I really actually enjoyed it when I first started. But when we started giving credit cards to people who had really high debt to net ratios, that didn't feel good. It didn't fit with who I was or with my values. So I had to quit and reframe. I'm sure many of you have had very similar experiences. This process suggests when it doesn't feel right, you need to rethink. Here are some things that a well-designed life includes. I put this list together, but this list is my list. Your list is going to be different. Take a minute, look at this. What's missing? What else would you include in this list? And write that in the chat. and then I'll ask Gina to share. Gina, what are you seeing?
I'm seeing some constant learning, the need for growth, creativity, education, service, so helping others, and the ability to accept change.
Awesome, awesome. Well, maybe next time I'll add some of those to the presentation. Thank you. One piece of the design process is recognizing gravity problems. Gravity problems are things that you cannot change, and sometimes we waste huge chunks of our life fighting these. An example of a gravity problem: if you want to be CEO of a family-owned business, they only hire family members, and you're not in the family, that's a gravity problem. Rather than bumping up against that time and time again and wasting time on it, recognize it and move on. I love this quote by Dave Evans: "You can't solve a problem you're not willing to have." So think for yourself, are there any things in your life right now that you keep bumping up against, trying to change, wishing they were different, but if you really thought about them, maybe they're a gravity problem? Note that for yourself in your notebook. This is the classic design process that comes out of the Stanford D School. It's a 5-step process. You may also see this process in 3 steps: inspire, ideate, and implement. But the process we're using is empathize, define, ideate, prototype, and test. This design thinking is a human-centered process. Rather than starting with, hey, what really cool thing can we make? Like hand sanitizer. Or what can we resource? Like, I've got $1 million. We start with, what do people really want and need? And that's why empathize is the first step, and it's so important. When you figure out what people want and need by observing them, talking with them, gathering data, then you can go on to define a problem to ideate to. In the designing your life process, we add an additional step. And that step comes before empathy, and it's accept. The idea here is you need to accept. It helps. You don't need to do, you can do whatever you want, but it helps to be able to accept where you are in life in order to begin to move forward with this process. If you're still thinking, oh, I should have done that 20 years ago, or boy, I don't like this, I'd really like it to change, it's hard for you to be able to move forward on this path. So the first piece of the designing your life process is accept. The rest follows the design thinking process the same way. Burnett and Evans believe so deeply in the accept piece that they have this hanging outside their office: start where you are. And it's very logical because it's really hard to start anywhere else. We can't go backwards. Let's start now. I bought the doormat. Assuming that you've accepted where you are in life, then the next step is empathy. We're going to do a couple of empathy exercises today to just help you check in with yourself. The first is the life view exercise. Turn to the life view page in your workbook, and I'm going to give you 3 minutes and ask you to answer these questions. These are big questions, so you could take a long time to do it, but I want you to just trust your intuition. What's the purpose of life? What does work mean to you? And what do you want to use your work for? For me, the purpose of life is to be here to learn and to help others. So experience, learning, and empowering. For me, work is how I carry out my purpose and use my unique skills. And I want to use my work to help others and address wicked problems in the world. What would you like to do? I'm going to give you till 9:33. If what is the purpose of life really overwhelming as a question, try what does work do for you? What does work mean for you? It's quiet and I feel like I should be singing, but check in on the chat. Purpose of work and want to use my work for feel very similar. Absolutely, they can. Yeah, I see that. They can. For some people, what is the purpose of work? For some, it's to make money or to figure out, how do I resource my life? For others, it's to carry out meaning in my life or purpose. Contribute to society. Love that. Okay, we're going to move ahead with the next empathy exercise. This one is the dashboard, and there are lots of tools in the designing your life purpose, the designing your life process for empathy, but we're just, as I said, doing a couple. The second one is the dashboard. This is a tool you can use to check in with yourself and kind of figure out where you are on using certain metrics. This dashboard has four different areas of your life that it represents: work, play, love, and health. If you've ever worked with a coach, you might have gotten a wheel of life segmented into 8 circles. And so there are 8 things that you're measuring your life against and checking in with yourself about. But in this one, there are 4. So work, play, love, and health. When I completed my dashboard, I marked my work as full. So full is whatever full means to you. How full and fulfilling is work compared to where you want it to be? And at the time I completed it, I had all the work that I wanted, and it was pretty fulfilling. Play, I only marked as 25% because I was not having as much fun as I needed to. It didn't feel good to me. Love, I marked at 75%. And love here is not just romantic love. It's love that's all around you, your family, your friends, your community. I'm sure you can think of others. Health, I marked at 50%. I'm okay, but there are things I definitely could do better, right? You have a dashboard in your packet, and I'd like for you to complete the current view for yourself. So if you had printed it out, you could do this, you could do the one that has the graphic, but if not, there's one below it that you could actually type into with Word. So on your dashboard, take a moment and mark, how is your life in these 4 areas compared to where you want it to be? And then Beth, would you put up the poll? There's a poll coming up, and we'd like to hear from you. What's one area of your life that you'd like to work on? Let's leave that poll open for about 2 minutes.
You got it.
Okay. If everyone can see the poll tool.
I'm not seeing any votes come in, so I am not sure.
Okay, I think we're seeing some answers come in the chat.
Yeah.
Gina, what are you seeing that people want to work on?
I'm seeing a lot of play and love and work, and a couple helps.
Okay, terrific. Wherever you are, whatever you want to work on, whether it's these 4 things or a subset of some of these things, the designing your life process can help you do that. Oh, I see the poll. Okay.
Not sure why I didn't launch correctly the first time, but try again.
Okay, let's try again. Can everybody look at the poll, pick an answer, and
Now we have lots of answers coming in.
excellent. We said it wouldn't be perfect, but we hope it's going to be great. All right, Beth, whenever you want to close it, let's see what we got.
All right, we still have 1 or 2 straggling responses. I'm going to wait till that slows down and then we will close it in just a moment.
Sounds great. Okay, so health actually won out slightly over work and play. Excellent. Thank you so much. As I said, the designing your life process can work for any area of your life. We're going to focus today on career and work through a career example, but you can do 3 plans for any particular area that you want to work on. Another empathy tool is the Good Time Journal. We're not going to do this exercise because we don't have time to do this today in the session, but you have the form and you can use it. A Good Time Journal in the class that I teach in Designing Your Life is something that we use 1 page per day. And the idea is to write down the things that you're doing. You don't have to put a lot of detail. And then at the end of the day, to check in with yourself about each activity and think, okay, how engaged was I in that activity? Was I really present? For some people, presence gets so deep that it feels like flow and you might lose track of time. I'm sure you felt that at some point in your life. In fact, I'd like you to take a moment and think, when's the last time that I was so engaged and I had so much fun with something that I lost track of time? What was that for you? Yeah. So once you've figured out your engagement, the next thing that you're going to check in with yourself on is energy level. In that activity, did I get energy? Did I leave like this conference feeling great? Or did that suck the life out of me? Now that was just awful and I don't want to do it again. And that's the positive or negative energy. It's the energy that you get from it. So this is an example from Bill Burnett's journal. You can see that art class, he was in flow when he was in art class and he got so much energy from it. But faculty meetings, not really engaged, and whether he got energy depended upon the topic. So some topics brought him energy and some didn't. And the idea is to do this for 2 weeks, 1 day, 1 page per day for 2 weeks. And then you have a lot of data about what you do and what you like and what you don't like. And it gives you really data points that you can use to even reorganize some activities in your day so that you can end on a positive note. But it's another way of gaining empathy with yourself. If you've used other things like journals or other tools to really check in with yourself, we'd love for you to share them in the chat. We're not going to go over them, but we will capture them in the notebook. Once you've gained empathy with yourself and you know what area of life you want to work on, that helps frame or design the area that we're going to ideate to. I said today we're going to work on career, right? And to ideate, we create 3 plans. So if you're doing design thinking at work, you might put sticky notes up everywhere and you might come up with 50 or 100 or even more ideas about how to solve a particular problem. But as humans, it would be really hard for us to chase 50 pathways of possible careers, or 50 pathways of possible play, right? So we do 3 plans. We come up with 3 alternatives, try and prototype them out, and then if that doesn't work out, we can reframe and do 3 more, 3 at a time. So on the worksheet that you have under Odyssey Plan, I'd like you to write 3 different alternatives for work. Number 1 is what you're doing now or you're preparing to do if you're in school. So for me, I'm director of leadership and a professor of practice. That's what I would put there. Number 2 is what would you do if this job went away? So imagine, and we're really facing this right now, jobs are going away or industries are going away. What skills can you bring that you can use as a backup for that second job? Prior to coming to the university, my background was in international development, doing education, technology, healthcare work all over the world. So that's an area that I might go back to if my job here went away, which I hope it won't. So what would you do? What's your plan 2? And then number 3 is this wild card. What would you do if you had all of the money in the world? You didn't need money, but you had to get up and go do something every day that was useful for the world, right? A lot of people think, oh, I want to travel and try restaurants and see things. Good. But at number 3, I really want you to put, what would you do? How would you share your gift with others? Whether it's, I want to be CEO of a tech company, I want to run a dive bar in Bali, I want to be an astronaut at NC State, whatever that is, put that in number 3. And this is hard for a lot of people. And I think it's very hard for women. We're not used to being asked and to answering, what do you really want? So take a couple minutes to think about this. I'll give you to 9:47. And if you have particular questions, feel free to put them in the chat. These are some pretty powerful number 3s. If you don't know anymore, Heather has asked, what if you really don't know anymore? I think so many people are in that situation. You don't know, and this is a wonderful time to use this designing your life process to wayfind and figure that out. These are some really cool things. The world would be on fire if you guys could all do these things. Okay, I have to shut the chat down on my screen because you're bringing tears to my eyes, I have to say. Very powerful. Take another minute or 2. So I'll give it till 9:46 because you guys seem to grasp number 3 really well. Okay. So I'm going to give you an opportunity to do this for yourself. before we do that, I'd like to share 2 examples of how this works. Once we have an idea about either a current job, our backup job, or a dream job, then the next step is to think, what might that look like and what do I need to do for the next 5 years? So here's an example of a plan where a 5-year plan where someone wanted to go back to university and write a book. And you can see that in year 1, she applied to the university and she quit her job. In year 3, she finished the coursework that she needed to do. And in year 5, she published her book. And you can see here there are work elements, but there are also personal elements, things that she wanted to make sure to include in each of these 5 years, like book a nice holiday, right? Once she'd laid out things that she wanted to do for herself, she asked, how many resources do I have compared to what I think it's going to take? You know, what percentage do I have? And for her, it's somewhere around, 43%, something like that. And then how much do I like this idea? How confident that am I that I can do it? And finally, how coherent is this with who I am and what I believe? And if you look at the coherence gauge, it's not very coherent. She also noted some questions that she needed to answer if she was going to move along with this plan. Here's another example. In this example, our designer wants to stay at the organization that she's with, but become global director of sales. So she begins to practice radical collaboration by talking to her supervisor and key stakeholders. She networks. You can see she's trying to increase her visibility. This is her plan. She includes some things like travel. But by year 4 in her plan, she is successful at obtaining the position of global director of sales. When she looks at her gauges, she doesn't have all the resources that she needs, but that doesn't seem to stop her in this plan. She really likes it. She's highly confident, and it has high coherence with who she is and what she believes. And again, she develops some questions for herself. So I'd like you to try this. I'm going to give you until 10 o'clock to work through a 5-year plan for yourself. If you are super fast and you get through one, do another. This is the worksheet that you have in your workbook, but if you printed it, you can write on this one. If not, there's one that's in Word form on the next page. Okay. You're going to do the 5 years, put together a 6-word title for your plan. This one was Become Global Director of Sales. That's really only 5 words. Go back to university, book deal. So you get the idea. And then check your gauges and write some questions for yourself. Gina, are you seeing questions in the chat that we need to answer before we move on?
Not at the moment, no.
Okay. So here are the instructions again. Pick one of your Odyssey plans, alternative 1, 2, or 3. My suggestion is that you pick number 3. If you know what number 3 is, pick it and say, what would I do in the next 5 years to bring number 3 into reality? If you don't know what number 3 is, that's okay. Use number 1 or number 2 and plan out those next 5 years. Okay. As I said, I'm going to give you 10 minutes to do this. So we're going to go till 10 o'clock. If you finish early, grab a coffee, but be back with us at 10. And I'm going to put myself on mute and monitor the chat. So Kate asked, what if you don't know what the steps needed to reach the goal are? That's perfectly normal, absolutely. This is a great opportunity to practice radical collaboration with others, because even though we're not doing the failure exercise here, one type of failure is really related to something that you don't know how to do, but somebody else knows how to do. And so if you know that position that you want, somebody else can help you get there. We'll talk about that a little more in prototyping. My suggestion, if you don't know what those steps are, is write attainment of your goal in year 5, and then back up and help yourself just begin to outline what you think might work. I'll switch back to the example for just a second. Catherine asked about, will we post these on the MBA Hub or something? Yes, once we have the recording together, we will make it public for everybody. All right, you've got 5 more minutes. As I said, if you finish one, try to do another. Get some practice. Our goal is to do 3 plans. If you have one that you're excited about, feel free to take a picture of it and send it to us in the chat. Gina, is there anything in the chat we need to be talking about while we're doing the exercise?
Currently, people are asking more technical questions about the recordings and whatnot, but there are some very powerful quotes that have been put in the chat if people would like to read them. One I really love is the one from Abraham Lincoln, and then Miss Bev Porter also just had a beautiful quote at the bottom here.
So what are those two? Can you share the one from Abraham Lincoln and the?
Of course, the one from Abraham Lincoln was earlier when we were talking about our goals and how sometimes we can think a certain way about where we want to go. I think this quote is great. It says, "When you look for the bad in mankind, expecting you'll find it, you surely will. So look for the good and you'll find it," which I just love that.
I love that too. It's so important for where we are right now because you could find either one. It's
Yeah.
all, they're both all over the media. And for me, I want to find the good. So
Yes.
what's
And
the
then,
other one?
and then Bev said, "With lofty goals and objectives, oftentimes we have to speak as though it were. In other words, walk as if the goal has already been realized."
I love that too. And
Very
that's part of the reason that you think 5 years out, because you want to be able to see, I can do that, right? I can do that. And again, back to the question that we had earlier, what if you don't know what those steps are? There are people that can help you find that, you know, and we're here to help as well. So we've got 1 more minute and then we'll come back together. Again, if you're willing to share a picture of your Odyssey plan, that once you've drawn it out, please do. Okay, let's come back together. Just a quick check, if you would, in the chat. How easy or difficult did you find this activity? Just type easy or difficult, and I'll let Gina take a quick note. Gina, what are you seeing?
So far, I've yet to see anyone say it was easy. It was difficult or very difficult.
Okay, right. And that's okay. It's your life. And as I said, many people are pulling at you. You've got people who want your time, your energy. I think it's really hard for us sometimes to just stop and take stock of how we feel and what we want, and then to really give ourselves permission to think about, how might I get there? How might I get what I want? So I would encourage you, the session is short, but I encourage you, if it's difficult, plan some time just to think a little bit more about what it is that you want every day. With practice, it will get easier. And I think some of that comes from giving yourself permission to think, yeah, I can, rather than I can't, those limiting beliefs. So thank you. Okay. Assuming we have our 3 plans done and we know what this next path might look like for a while, we can figure out, what don't we know? We already come up with some things that we don't know. And it may be we don't know what that next step is. Or if I wanted to learn how to do and be an airline pilot or something, maybe I don't know what that next step is. Right. So take a look at your plans and circle things that you don't know about. Take a minute to do that. Or note for yourself, what else might you need to know more about, even if you have some knowledge of it. Once we're clear on the direction that we want and the things that we need to learn, the next step is prototyping. And in designing your life, we do two types of prototyping: prototype conversations and prototype experiencing. If I was designing, these glasses, I would build some glasses and try them on my face and just, see what that was like. But in designing your life, the way we navigate is with these prototype experiences. So prototype conversations are like a conversation you might have with a mentor, or an informational interview, or even a job interview. You're trying to get a sense of, what is that life like? Someone who has the job that you want or who's worked in that field, you're learning from them through conversation. That's a prototype conversation. A prototype experience is trying something out, whether that's through an internship or job shadowing or volunteering. How can you get a sense of what being in that job is truly like? By doing it. Prototyping gives us data, right? If we have a prototype conversation or we have a prototype experience and it feels great, we can move forward. If we have a prototype conversation or an experience and it doesn't feel so good, oh my gosh, I didn't know that about this job. I don't think I want that. That's a really low cost way to find out, oh, that's not on my path. That helps us fail forward cheaply and quickly. Right? Prototyping is a great opportunity for radical collaboration as well. So say I wanted to be CEO of a tech company, but I didn't know how to do that. I can promise you there are people who are at this conference that know exactly how to do that, who've done it before, and that I could talk to. We're creating a LinkedIn group for IWC and inviting all of you to join that LinkedIn group. This is some place that you can actually reach out and ask for what you need in prototyping. Things like, where might I find a CEO of a tech company that I can talk to about how she got there? Or could I job shadow? So we'll provide more information about that later in the day. Right now, I'd like you to turn to the prototype sheet and write down, what are some conversations that I need to have in order to live out this plan or any other plan? And what are some prototype experiences that I might be able to do now or really soon? I mean, with social distancing, some of this is hard, but prototype conversations can be had just like this online. So take a few minutes for yourself to write those down. Gina, I'm checking in on the chat. Anything we need to attend to?
Currently at the moment, people are still continuing to say really positive things. And I really love what I believe it's DB said, that the silver lining of currently that this virus is that we do have time to look at more strategic plans for our life rather than the tactical plans, which is
that's an excellent point. Yeah, excellent point. So take a couple of minutes. And if you would, write in the chat, are there other ways that you can think of to prototype? For example, what type of experience? I listed job shadowing, internship, and volunteering. Are there other experiences that you can think of that would be prototype experiences? Are there other conversations that you think you could have that would help you prototype? I also want you to write on your sheet, who might you be able to radically collaborate with? Who do you need to do that with? If you don't have a name, is there a title or a job category or something that you can write down for yourself so that you'll know, I want to work on this in order to find out more information. Gina, what are we seeing in the chat?
So when people are thinking about in ways in which to prototype, I like how someone said teaching classes, and I had mentioned mentorship programs could also be another way to learn from others in the process.
Excellent. If there's something that you want help with right now, as I said, we have a lot of folks in this room, 174 participants. So if there's something that you would like help with learning about now, feel free to put it in the chat, and then someone in the room may be able to respond to you through private message. Okay, take maybe one more minute. Sometimes students ask me, would someone really be willing to talk to me? And I have always found the answer to be yes, especially if you're introduced to that person from someone in your network, right? Those relationships are important. Okay. The next step in the process is to make a good decision well. You've gone out and you've ideated, you've gathered ideas. Through prototyping, you're narrowing those down, figuring out what I like, what I don't like, what fits with me, what doesn't fit with me. And at some point, you choose a path, right? This is the next job that I'm taking, or I'm going back to school, or I'm living my dream. I'm going to create this business. You choose that path. Once you've chosen, the idea here is to let go and move on. Don't spend time thinking, oh, maybe I should have chosen that path, or maybe I should have chosen this path. You've gone through a process where you've been really purposeful about your intentions and you've made a decision. If at some point, after you've walked that path that you've chosen, if at some point life doesn't feel juicy enough, or you run into a situation where you must make a change, wonderful. That's an opportunity to do the process again. How does that feel? How easy is it for us to make, as women, for us to make choices, make good decisions, and feel confident about them going forward? Feel free to comment in the chat. Gina, what are you seeing?
Currently, I believe people are processing, but I can say with my own personal experience, it's difficult sometimes to be confident moving forward in a decision, because I like to think, as someone had mentioned earlier, strategically, and so that can be a lot of pressure.
Yep.
So, we are getting some. I love somebody said it's empowering to feel that way, that we have a lot of decisions to make and some are scarier than others.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Being able to be agile and pivot is really important, using all the new data that we have to make decisions.
If you spend some time, I agree with that completely. If you spend some time with this process and get used to, okay, I need to pivot. Life doesn't feel juicy, or I really need to make a change right now because the situation has changed, like in this current environment. And you get practiced at, let me empathize with myself, drop down, figure out what I want. Okay, here's the area I need to change. Let me do 3 plans. How do I prototype? If you practice with that over and over throughout your life, this is a process that you can use over and over, and it gets easier to do. So Hopefully this will be useful for you. These are the ideas that we've been talking about, and they're key principles of designing your life. Be curious. This is your life, right? There will never, ever, ever, ever be another person just like you on this planet. And no one should be more curious about making that life work than you. Reframing problems into opportunities. Rather than a limiting belief, how can you flip that and change it into an opportunity? Or a desire number 3 plan. How can you live into that? Paying attention to when you're in flow. When you feel really good and you lose track of time, as I said earlier, that's a good clue that this is something that you might want more of in your life. Try things. Designers have a bias for action. It's wonderful to think about all the things you might like to do, but if you actually don't try them, you will never do them. And with this one life, trying things is pretty important. Embrace reality, whether that's through gravity problems, recognizing those, or accepting where you are. Embracing reality is a key piece of this. Practice radical collaboration. That's the theme of our conference. And we've set up tools for you to collaborate, not only today, but later. We want to be part of your team. Failing forward. Find quick ways to make decisions about whether or not something's right for you. The next steps in this process, form a design life team. The last page of your workbook is about this. There are spaces for you to list other people that might be willing to go on this journey with you. I would encourage you to choose other people who are also thinking about what they want in life and are actively engaged in trying to bring that into reality. Build out 3 possible careers. You can do this, as I said, you can do 3 plans with career, with play, with love, with health, or another area of your life. And you can do it with your families as well. Create a bucket list. I used to teach goal setting, and I remember my husband and I made a list of everything we wanted to do in life before it was a movie. So I would encourage you to create a bucket list and put everything you want on there. Riding a giraffe was on mine. I don't want to do it anymore, but it was initially on mine. If you make that list, then you have some things to choose from, and it helps with number 3. Get out there and try things. I know right now we're limited in terms of the things that we can do, but that doesn't mean our choices are gone. We're becoming very creative about how do we pivot and reframe. Here are some other resources for you. These will be shared with you. My email and my phone number are at the bottom. I'm offering free coaching for anyone who's been displaced by the coronavirus. So if you want to have a coaching session, please feel free to reach out to me. I want to thank you for your time and your attention. Gina, I want to thank you for serving as ambassador, and Beth for serving as host. Thank you very much. Okay. We are due for a coffee break. This is our morning schedule. The coffee break is sponsored by the Advancement of Women Entrepreneurs. Here's our sponsorship slide. So you have 10 minutes to grab some coffee, do whatever you need, and then come back at 10:25 for her stories. Thank you so much. We'll see you in 10 minutes.
And just to let y'all know, Her Stories is in the same room.
Thank you, Beth. Yes, stay here, come back here. Feel free to put yourself on mute or anything you need, but we'll see you at 10:25 right here.